If you'd like to call in and chat with us. All right, I want to get back to Carrie Sharp did a story recently. She sat down with actress Kimberly Williams Paisley, of course, the wife of Brad Paisley, and she opened up about her mother's battle with Alzheimer's. She wrote a book about this journey, and Carrie Sharp has her story. Let's take a look.
We fell in love.
It's one of the moments in Father of the Bride, featuring then Kimberly Williams, that melted our hearts.
I'm engaged. I'm engaged. I'm getting married.
Her on-screen dad's reaction was relatable, even endearing, the premise for a blockbuster movie. But a decade later, when she told her real-life parents of her engagement to country star Brad Paisley, her mother's response could not have been scripted.
She reacted very irrationally to my engagement and was very upset by it. And at my wedding, she was inconsolable.
Looking back, it was one of the first clues that something wasn't right. Years would pass before her mother's dementia was diagnosed. 10 years after that, Alzheimer's disease took Linda Williams' life.
Dementia is a family disease that is complicated, and there's really no easy, graceful way through it. So
that messy journey turned this actress into an advocate and author.
I wanted to write the book that I wish I'd had 10 years prior.
In her New York Times bestseller, just released in paperback, Kimberly recounts some of the mistakes her family made.
We need to just be talking about this. It's not something that should be kept secret.
Keeping the disease in the shadows has also had a chilling effect on research.
Until a few years ago, the amount of research dollars that were going to Alzheimer's and other dementias was about 2 to 3% of what's going for cancer.
Dr. Laura Dugan is the head of geriatric medicine at Vanderbilt University.
We were excited to see that we could actually image this.
And she's flipping Alzheimer's research on its head. What you're looking at is a brain scan, and the little red oval is inflammation, perhaps a hallmark of Alzheimer's disease in its earliest form. Dr. Dugan believes inflammation throughout the body is a critical factor in brain aging.
The brain is sensing this whole body low-grade inflammation, and it's what it's doing is modifying some signaling pathways and some other cell biology in the brain in an abnormal way that's setting the stage for this progression down into this brain injury we call dementia or Alzheimer's disease.
If her research pans out, it could mean treatments before the disease ever sets in.
And we actually have a couple interventions, therapies that we think are effective. We're testing them right now.
As Dr. Dugan pushes the research forward, Kimberly is channeling her mother, a one-time fundraiser for the Michael J. Fox Foundation.
She had such a knack. She could ask people for millions of dollars and get it.
And turning this country town into a disco city. She and Brad are turning back the clock to promote a disco party and fundraiser at the Wild Horse Saloon.
We're inviting country artists to come and do something they don't normally do and perform their favorite disco song.
Proof that some of the most meaningful moments in life start by going off script.
I have a cause now that helps me heal.
Carrie Sharp with Kimberly Williams Paisley. That disco party fundraiser June 4th, as you saw at the Wild Horse Saloon. That's great to have someone as high profile as her open up, first of all, share her story, and again, raise awareness, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It is. She's been a great friend, if you will, of the Alzheimer's Association, and she's really putting now her passion into helping us raise the money necessary, provide the programs, provide the research, and we are her cause, and we are very happy to be.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about what the doctor at Vanderbilt was talking about and some of the advancements. First of all, I noticed clearly she called it, she talked about inflammation, which we hear a lot about, inflammation throughout the body, which is a broad term, I understand, but she called it a brain injury. It is a brain injury that something has gone awry. And then she talked a little bit about these intervention therapies that she said they're pretty excited about, which we kind of touched on a little bit earlier. So as we look ahead 5, 10, 15 years into the future, perhaps we can expect some big things.
We really hope so. And it's because the tidal wave, if you will, of baby boomers who are really literally just beginning to hit that 65 mark in terms of a large demographic entering into the prime diagnostic age. That's why the numbers, if nothing changes, look like they're just going to continue to literally skyrocket. And so the impetus is for this generation and for future generations to try to have those preventive therapies and things. And you're right, it is. She used the word brain injury. It's a lot of people don't realize or think that it is a degenerative brain disease. I mean, you can look at a brain at the end of an Alzheimer's stage when the person dies from it, and it is an entirely different brain than that person had 10 years before.
And that raises too something that we really didn't talk about a lot, and that is the emotional impact that this can have when we talk about people change their personalities can just change so much. And like you said, you try to tell people, the caregivers and the family and the loved ones, try to focus on the person you knew, because that's the person inside, because what you're seeing now is the effects of this disease, and so someone who could have been really low-key and sweet and loving is now
maybe a little more agitated
and angry and upset, and just things where that can just take an emotional toll on a family trying to deal with this as it progresses. And also that long, slow goodbye, as they say, where it's just it's a draining thing for everyone involved.
Yeah, for everyone, and to the person with dementia. A lot of our services help them because they know things are changing and how hard that must be to not be good at the things you used to be good at, or to have that independence taken away. So we try to serve the whole family that's affected.
And working with them on a lot of the different things. One of the hardest things that people go through is taking the car away.
Oh yeah, that's a tough one.
And
losing that independence.
Losing that independence and being the family member of the spouse that has to make the decision that it's no longer safe for you to be out there driving. And that's just another, we're a car driving culture, and that's one of the biggest ways that in getting families, you have to make these choices and these decisions.
And have a plan and be on the same page and everything. Real quickly, before we go to our final break, we talk a lot about funding and research and all of that, and we talk about the federal government. And you mentioned earlier that the national group also acts as a lobbying effort in Washington to get more money allocated into the budget. How is that received in Washington? And also, I would imagine if you hear of any lawmakers, whether they're members of the House or the Senate, if you hear maybe that they've gone through this in their family, I would immediately pick up the phone and call them and say, look, you've been through it. Right. So help us. Because now we have an emotional connection.
We have a really effective group of volunteer, basically, advocates. Every year, we work throughout the year with every congressperson, every senator across the country. We have volunteers who are assigned to them, who have chosen them, who are in constant contact with them. And to your question of how we're received, we are a bipartisan disease. I mean, it has been interesting over the past few years. There's been a lot of partisanship. Nobody can agree on anything. The size of the budget, what we're paying for. We have been able to get Congress to always agree on this. And so all of the battles that went on in the last budget that was just signed a couple of weeks ago had an additional $400 million in it for the NIH. That NIH had asked for. This is what we need, and it's to bring that amount up to just a few years ago.
And why do you think that was possible? Because so many people now are aware, or because of the work of these volunteer advocates?
I think it's for the work of the volunteers. I mean, Tiffany leads our advocacy efforts across the chapter, and that's
a pretty significant amount of money.
We have been. Politicians have told us, y'all are the most effective advocacy group we've ever seen come up here, because
that's
they're relentless.
Fantastic.
And it's pretty amazing to go with our volunteers. We go every year to DC for an advocacy forum, so we call them ambassadors, and they build that relationship with the member of Congress. But it's so awesome to see us do that, and then, like Jim said, we just got the $400 more million to the NIH budget, so they see that they're making a difference.
Well, I always tell people I feel for the lawmakers, because you have so many groups asking, you know, please, we need help. And you hear a lot of negative connotation of the term special interests, but that's what all these groups are. They have a special interest in mind. Your group has a special interest. It just so happens, if you look at all these special interest groups, they tend to affect a lot of us.
Right.
There are people, you know, all sorts of groups and unions and organizations representing a lot of people in the country who are looking for assistance.
Yeah, and several years ago when we went there, we left them with the statement that the New England Journal of Medicine named Alzheimer's the most expensive disease today.
Wow.
So that's something we try when we go and talk with them to deliver points like that.
Yeah,
so that they can see that this is the disease of this time.
We got to take a quick final break here, and we'll have a few moments to wrap up. When we come back, everybody, OpenLine will be right back.